Okay, welcome everyone to Tanya Inside Out. Last class we were Messiah Perek Lamed Beis, the famous chapter in Tanya about Avos Yisrael. And then Gavriel asked if we could do maybe some kind of summary secum of everything until then. And I think that's a good idea because it's a bit of a it can at least be argued that it's a stop. Lamed Beis is a stop and it begins something. There's another way of understanding that Lamed Beis was a hefsek between Lamed Aleph, Lamed Gimel, Lamed Daled, and then it changes by Lamed Hey. But it's a good time to do a little recap. So, anyone's got any questions before I begin on Tanya? Like any Klali questions on Tanya? Or I'll just jump in. Okay. So the the first thing that we do in Tanya is we introduce the idea of the three different kinds of Jews: Tzaddikim, Beinonim, and Rishoim. And we break that down into five. Okay, Tzaddik v'Tovlo, Tzaddik v'Raloi, Beinoni, Rasha v'Tovlo, Rasha v'Raloi. And that's like kind of the foundation of the Tanya. The way I understand it, the reason why he did that, the way I understand it, is he doesn't want you to define yourself as a Rasha, Benoni, or a Tzaddik. Yeah, that's not the point of it. It's what it does is just in a genius way. It gives the Rebbe the kind of the stage, the platform upon which to give over all of Yiddishkeit by describing um, the potentially different Jewish experiences that we can have. Yeah, which this is what really we're talking about. We're not talking about a person called a tzaddik, a person called a Benoni, a person called a Rasha. We're talking about internal experiences. Excuse me. A little bit under the weather today, sorry. Um, and what this will do is once we've described the experiences and the mechanics of how these experiences take place, we're really understanding everything. That's what this Sefer is doing. So so really there's only two kinds of people. Jews, two kinds of Jews. There are Tzaddikim and Rishoim. So a Benoni, because we know there's also a Benoni as a person is actually a Rasha. Now, a Rasha doesn't mean, a satanic, malevolent, demonic uh, force for evil in the world. It means a person who has his own separate sense of self. That's what it means, a Rasha. He has his own individual agenda. Russia is from Loshan Rash, noise. It means there's internal noise. Okay, and Sadiq is quiet internally, which means he doesn't have his own agenda. Yeah, noise is synonymous for an agenda. So there's only two kinds of creatures, two kinds of Jews. There's Tzaddikim and Rishoim. So what's a Benoni? A Benoni is a Rasha who acts like a tzaddik. And that is amazing. That isn't like, oh, well, he's really a Russia, but he's just acting like a tzaddik. No, he's a Benoni. He's means he has identified so deeply with his role as an Eved Hashem, as an Oived Hashem, I should say, that all he does is serve God. Does he have his own agenda? Yes. And he puts it to the side again and again and again. And sometimes he doesn't put it to the side. Sometimes he's serving God for his own selfish purposes. Sometimes, but he's always serving God. He is a human. A tzaddik isn't really a human being. He's already kind of graduated in a sense. A Benoni is a human being who has identified with his purpose in this world. And our purpose in this world is to serve our Creator. That's a Benoni. So when we call him a Russia, we say he's a Russia. That's what Eov said at the beginning. He says, Brasa Rishoyim, Brasa Tzadikim. Hashem only made Rishoyim and Tzadikim. Yeah, the question is, do you we are Rishoyim in that sense, in the sense that we are human beings with our own sense of independent self. What do you do with that? Do you give that to the Boy Sholem, or do you worship it? That's really the way I said. Do you worship your own independence, or do you give it to him, Yisbarach? And that's what a Benoni is. A Benoni gives his independence, gives his agenda to the Ribono Shel Olam, but he has an agenda. Okay, so what is the agenda? What is the agenda, Gabriel? In like the quickest, most succinct way you can say it. What's the agenda of the Russia? Can you say it in 2 words?
Um, Survival,
Say it in 1 word. The word that comes before survival. Why does he want to survive?
to live,
Why does he want to live?
pleasure.
Pleasure. But that's really it. That's the shoresh is oineg. But doesn't mean that you want chocolate. It means the ultimate oineg, which is the oineg of being. That's the oineg is not. It's like the chocolate is. Again, we say that chocolate gives us pleasure, but we've reframed that and we say that chocolate touches our pleasure. But you can't say it touches your pleasure. It's not that you have pleasure, it's the essence of your humanity is called pleasure. All of this stuff that we're looking at, the flesh and the bones and the clothes and the cars and the businesses and all that kind of stuff, that's just layers, concentric layers over that nakuda that is called pleasure. Pleasure is that's what the whole game is. The whole game is a choice between my pleasure and his pleasure. That's the whole game of being Jewish, and that's what I wrote on my business card. On the back of my business card, it says, to be human, we must make and keep promises. Being Jewish is to place his pleasure before mine. That is the way I've understood what Yiddishkeit actually is that you're giving up. That's when we're talking about giving him Yisbarach your agenda. We're really talking about giving him your pleasure. And that doesn't mean that you don't enjoy chocolate. That doesn't mean that you break yourselves to the point where you get no pleasure from anything in this world. It means that your pleasure doesn't rule you. You don't worship your pleasure. You 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 are able to disconnect from your pleasure, meaning you're not identified with your pleasure. How
You
do
say to be human is to place another's will before your
that
own.
exact that's being human is to be able to put the pleasure
No,
of
but why'd you say making and breaking promises? Why would you
oh what okay
apples to apples?
because make it no because make no the beginning of no the beginning to be human, we must make and keep promises. Remember, it's a continuum. Why? What are you doing by making and keeping promises? What does that
You're
do?
putting something above your word. You're putting your word above yourself.
Yeah, you're creating a wedge between you and your pleasure. That's the beginning. When you talk about putting yourself above, when the way you just said that, how did you say it again? So you just said, Gabriel?
I don't know which part.
Just now, you said
Putting your word above yourself.
yeah, but you were so when you say yourself, yeah, you could just change that that's synonymous for
Your
pleasure.
pleasure. Your pleasure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the
So you
beginning of the
basically
whole
you
game.
mean living with principle. You mean living with principles, something that's binding, that's more than yourself,
Yes,
your
that's
own whim, your own pleasure.
exactly
That's
that's the
it.
beginning. That's the beginning of the game. That's me creating distance between me and my sense of pleasure. So we don't need to fight the different pleasures. we don't need to like the way I understand it is this idea of practicing Shmiras Einayim, yeah, is not helpful. You need to practice you need to practice like doing things for your wife if you have a wife, yeah, or doing stuff for your kids if you have kids, or doing things for other people that will help you put your pleasure to the side when you're actually trying to fight Shmiras Einayim. Yeah, you might be actually making you might it's like in a sense you might be winning the battle and losing the war because you actually end up getting more deeply connected to your pleasure. Whereas the real avoider is Bein Adam L'Chaveroi. That's where the real avoider is because then you can really start separating yourself from your sense of pleasure. And then the woman walks past you, and it's not a fight of Shmiras Einayim. It's a much more existential battle. It's a fight between reality and falsehood. You understand? It's not about I should just not look at this woman right now. It's I'm not giving in to that illusion of me. You with me? It's a much more elegant, sophisticated, and elevated battle avoider. Um, and it means that you can. I remember um, Benjamin, you've mentioned many times these the single paper towel idea, yeah.
Right.
But that's just a moshel for everything. Like the in this model of Yiddishkeit that we're talking about, you are constantly, literally every in every aspect of your life, you are involved in avoidance Hashem. When you're walking down the street, you see a piece of trash, you pick it up. You walk to the side of the street. Yeah, you watch where you look at. However it is, when you pass someone, you smile and say good morning or whatever it is. Just the constant thinking outside of yourself, the constant trying to add value to other people's lives.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, this is what I found. I was speaking to a guy today, and the whole idea of reward and punishment, and they'll tell you "B'toich lo yishma, bo yishma," and all the different things people say. But I really feel, and I wish I didn't feel this, but when you think into it, when Gan Eden is a real part of your avodah, you are you are toying with narcissism. You're toying with like it's very dangerous when it's all about you earning reward. Even when you're like there was someone that I knew who he used to have an open house, and I always used to feel that if it wasn't for the mitzvah of having guests, yeah, this person would never have had any, he wouldn't have had anything to do with me. And it was horrible. I hated that. I used to put it out of my mind, yeah. But I used to hate that the fact that he was doing it just the shame mitzvah. Like, I wanted to be important. You understand? That was when I was a bocher. It was now it's a little different.
You were just a tool in his apparatus.
Yeah, and that can be with children as well. When I mean, and it's a disaster. That's a
You were part of his mitzvah. You were the object of his mitzvah.
I
Like when you
yeah,
put tefillin, when a Chabadnik puts tefillin on you, you feel like he doesn't really care about you. He just cares about the tefillin being put on.
it could be, or it could maybe
I don't
not.
think so. I
Sometimes,
don't.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure you can let that comment stand by itself. I don't agree.
What about a
Again, if it's someone you have a relationship, great. But a lot of times it's a bacher. You're like, this is his job. This is his business.
Oh, yeah,
All
that's
right,
Again,
leave it alone.
nothing
Okay.
against Chabad.
either way, I didn't want to say that, but I was just saying the idea of when it's about me earning reward, yeah, that's for sure. In Chabad, it's not about that. No one talks about Star Einish in Chabad. Yeah, but when it's about me earning reward, yeah, or me getting close to God, that's I mean, that's gonna have some serious ramifications in your relationships. You know what I'm saying? It becomes like deeply narcissistic. on a very kind of on a very, very kind of fundamental level. It's really, if the whole point of the world is that God can give me pleasure, yeah, that, you know, I mean, you don't have to spell it out. It's pretty, it's quite, it's kind of dangerous. Anyway, um, so, so, yeah, so the idea of giving that part of you to Hashem, that is what the Tanya is basically um, spelling out in the first couple of prakim. The Nefesh Bahamis that he calls it, or the Nefesh Chiyunis, is this being that we could say that it wants to live, yeah, it wants to be, but we know that that's just that's a more external manifestation of its deepest desire. Its deepest desire is pleasure, that and being is pleasure. So that there, and then we have on the other side of the equation, we have the Nefesh Elokis, yeah, which he introduces in the second chapter, which is uh which is a chelik elikai mimal mamash. What's the Indian of mamash? So I've heard it explained before that mamash means it's in the mamashus of this world. That's what a chelik elikai mimal mamash is alluding to the fact that it's the Rabbeinu Shloim in his world. That's what Am Yisrael is. Am Yisrael is it's kind of funny, like the way that the Goyim talk about Yoshki, yeah, that is really what Am Yisrael is. Am Yisrael is God incarnate in this world. That's what we are. We are the ones who it's through Am Yisrael that the Rebbeinu Shloim comes into his world. That's called the Shechina. The Shechina is the source of the Jewish souls. Yeah, so in a sense, the Shechina is it's not like our souls make the Shechina. It's our souls are kind of products or payers from the Shechina. Like the moshel that the Arizal gives is the Hakal Tapuchin, is the apple orchard. That the Shechina is called the apple orchard, and the individual apples are the neshamas. So we are, Am Yisrael is the nation that Hashem chose to, so to speak, give himself access into his world. Now, the Rebbe then describes in chapter 3, he starts to describe um, what's it called? The structure of the soul, which, as we know, is Chochmah Bina Das. There's obviously the level of Kesser, which is Ratzon above that, but then it has the Seichel, Chochmah Bina Das, and the Midas, which is the Avon, and then it also has behavior, which is called Malchus, yeah, which is Begadim. Begadim is called behavior. Garments is behavior. Why? Because behavior is something external to you. You behave, you are not your behavior, which we know that instinctively with action. I'm not what I do, yeah, and even with speech, that's less. But with thinking, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of learning to realize that you're not your thinking. You are the one that thinks. Thoughts go through you; they're not you. But most people don't know that. But there we go. So we've got the structure of the soul, which is intellect, which gives birth to midos, yeah, in both souls, in the nefesh hakis and nefesh bahamis. That what you think about, so to speak, or what you know is what you'll have emotions towards, yeah. But the question is, once those emotions have been born, now what's the matzav? We know that all children are born from parents, yeah? There's no exceptions to that rule. But when you go to different houses, you'll see that there are certain houses where the parents run the house, and there are certain houses where the children run the house. So too with the two souls, with the godly soul, or at least the nefesh of askenes, the intellectual soul, you've got the intellect is running the emotions. excuse me. The emotions are born of the intellect in both souls, but then the intellect guides the emotions. In the human or the animal soul, it works differently, that the emotions guide the intellect, meaning the emotions, the selfish emotions, use the intellect to get what they want, to get their own kind of selfish whims taken care of. Okay, so the Rebbe describes the idea of what learning Torah is. Learning Torah is called a mazon for the nefesh. It actually Torah Lishma, by the way, he says Torah Lishma. It because we're masig Torah, you understand Torah, whereas by mitzvahs they're mucky view, they surround you. Yeah, but by Torah you understand it, which means you get your head around it. So in that sense, you're kind of bringing in Elokus. You're bringing in, so to speak, the voice excuse me, into your inner world. So that's called eating. That's called mazon. Whereas mitzvahs are called levushim because they so to speak surround you. You become enclosed in the mitzvah. The mitzvah is not, you're not massing the mitzvah, you're poil the mitzvah. You do the mitzvah. Whereas with Torah, you're massig Torah. You understand Torah. Okay, and then we introduced the concept of klipa. So we have three madregas. Well, really, we have two madregas. We have kedusha and klipa. Klipa divides into two, but before we say that, so I'm so tired. I had a very early morning this morning. I took my wife to the airport. That
You
yeah.
went to India now?
Sorry,
She went to India?
no, she went to England, but it's like India now anyway. So, um, the what was I saying? Yeah. So Kedusha and Klipa are both, if you can talk about Kedusha and Klipa in the same breath, sorry. Kedusha and Klipa, how do you turn off? Oh, there you go. Kedusha and Klipa are both containers. They're both containers. What do they contain? Like everything, every container contains or Hashem with an aleph. It contains Elikus. So we've got two kinds of kalim, kadosh and klipadik. A kadosh keli is a transparent vessel. When you're looking at a transparent vessel, you're not looking at a transparent vessel. You're looking at what's inside the vessel. You don't look at the glass cup. You look at the liquid. You're aware, you're aware of the liquid inside the cup. Just like when you look out of a window, you're aware of the view of what you're looking at. You're not aware of the window if the window's clean. But that's not the case when you've got a mug, a ceramic mug. You don't know what's in there. Could be Coke, could be water, could be Fanta. You have no idea what drink is in there. But there's a drink in there. That's Kleeper. So everything gets life from the light of God that's in that thing, that's contained within that thing. The question is, the walls of that thing, do they reveal the light that's inside, or like a glass, or do they conceal the light that's inside, like a ceramic mug? Okay, but now Kleeper divides into two madregas. You've got what's called Kleepus Noiga and Gimel Kleepus Atameus. Okay, or just called the Kleepus Atameus. Yeah, so just like you've got a coffee mug, yeah, which is ceramic, which you can't see anything through. Yeah, you can also have like a translucent, like Benjamin, the the window behind you, is that just a clean window with that's not translucent, is it?
No, it's mostly clean.
So translucent is like the windows that we have in our bathroom, like frosted windows. So and there are all kinds of madrigas to that as well. You can have frosted windows, like the infamous shower scene in a Hollywood film, yeah, where you see enough to not want to have to see that, yeah. Or it can get thicker and thicker and thicker, or more and more concealing until the point where all you know is that there is someone behind there. You can't see anything other than that. So that's the intermediate Klippa, and that's called Klippas Noiga, and it's in that Klippa where the job description of the Jew lies. So Gabriel, for brownie points or for bonus points, what's the Jew's real kesher? Now, the ultimate connection that the Jew has to Klippas Noiga.
Nefesh Bahamas.
What?
Nefesh Bahamas.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Keli of the Yid, the Kli in which the Neshama lives is Klippas Noiga. By a regular human being, that Keli is Klippas Tameas. And that's the point, is the Jew is raising up in every, see, you can't raise Klippas Tameas. Yeah, like Chazir is from Klippas Tameas. You can't raise Klippas Tameas. The only thing you do with Klippas Tameas is distance yourself from it, yeah. But you can't actually use it in your divine service. There's certain ways you could kind of, in a sense, you can. But on the level that we're learning right now, you can't raise up Klippas Tameas, yeah? You just have to leave it alone. But Klippas Noiga, you can raise up because it's a much more kind of supple, a much more refined Klippa. And that's the reason why the Nefesh Bahamis of the Jew is from Klippas Noiga. Because with every mitzvah you're doing, yeah, with tefillin you raise up leather and ink and cloth, etc. With talis you raise up, semer, geffen, etc. With tzedakah you raise up metal and you raise up the energy that you use to earn them, etc. In every single mitzvah you do, you're giving of your nefesh Bahamis. Your nefesh Bahamis is used in every single mitzvah. And that is the ultimate description of the Jew. That is like, I say this as a kind of a joke. It's a bit sad, but the idea of a Jew not having a clear understanding of what klipa is literally like a carpenter who doesn't know what wood is. That is your job. That is our job description, to be Ma'aleh Klipa. That's what happened by the Chet Eitz Adas. It's not stunned that it's the Eitz, which is the Indian of Klipa. That Klipa developed in this world. That's why we had to cover ourselves. Before we were kind of see-through. Yeah. But then came the avoider of raising up the Klipa, or so to speak.
You know that I just saw that in I just heard a share that before Chet Adam Arishon, everything was really just mitzvah. Only after Chet Adam Arishon it becomes Avera and Rishus.
That's just another way of saying what we just said exactly. That's a nice way of saying it. I never heard it said like that, but that's exactly the way. That's what it is. There was just Rebbeinu Shalom. Adam was just an extension of the Rebbeinu Shalom. But that wasn't enough. The Rebbeinu Shalom needed another to serve him. So that's what the Rayatz, the whole the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe's take on the Chet Eitz Adas, where it was a kind of intentional Yerida that Chava kind of intuited. That's where that all comes in. But anyway, so now that's the idea of Klippa. So that's chapters 6, 7, 8, where we're talking about the different kinds of klipa. That there are certain klipas that you have to avoid, which is the klipas timaeus, like chazir, kilei kerem, forbidden relationships, etc. And then there's klipas noiga, that the way you uplift klipas noiga. And the truth is, I don't actually know if you uplift the klipa. I'm not still clear of it, because the actual klipa, this is a bit more advanced, but by klipas noiga, the actual klipa has toiv me'uav in the actual kois, in the koisel of the klipa. There's toiv me'uav into the walls of the klipa. That's why it's translucent. It's not just that it's klipas timaeus. There's only one kind of klipa, but because it has kind of interfused with it. I don't know if the word, how do you say that? Fused with it? Not fused. Subfused. Like nivla. That there's kedusha, that there's toiv me'uav into the koisel, into the walls of the klipa. That's what gives the klipa its edelkeit, its receptiveness, or its supple, whatever you want to put it. Yeah. So now, when you put these two forces together in a human being, yeah, this keli of this kadosh keli, yeah, which is called the neshama, with this tame klipedika keli, which is called the nefesh bahamis. Now we have true bechira. That is what bechira is. Bechira is not deciding that you're not going to eat pizza because it's not good for you, and you've decided that you want to lose weight and you're going to give to your future self. Yeah, that's not true bechira. True bechira is choosing between reality and illusion. Choosing between your apparent self or the silent creator, however you want to say it. That's true bechira. And that isn't a function of the mind. The minute the mind gets involved, yeah, then it's fallen down into human bechira. And humans have bechira. A human being can choose to save money or spend money. A human being can choose to buy this car or buy that car, or to not buy any car and to invest his money into building some kind of organization to help poor people. Yeah. But if it's coming from the function of the mind, if it's the mind making the decision, that is not true free will, and that exists in just in the nefesh bahamis itself, or the nefesh chiyunis, in the human soul itself. Yeah, you don't need a godly soul to decide that you're not going to eat pizza right now because it's going to make you fat, or it's going to clog up your heart. Yeah, that you don't need that. You don't need a nefesh lakis. The difference that nefesh lakis means is that doing a mitzvah lishma is now possible against doing a mitzvah lo lishma, which the nefesh bahamis can do mitzvahs lo lishma. The nefesh bahamis, if you train him correctly, he can do mitzvahs lo lishma all day long, and that might not be a bad idea. Yeah, that's quite a good project. Yeah, but just remember, that isn't Yiddishkeit. The real Yiddishkeit is when the nefesh lakis shines through the nefesh bahamis. Like we've said many times, if I was very wealthy, yeah, and I could, which I'm not, like money wise, and I could afford to pay some big dude to walk around with one of my older sons, and every time he sees him doing a Avera, he gives him a slap around the face, a real hard, or knuck on the head with something really. He gives him a zitz for something, yeah. And I pay this guy 24/7. So he's walking around with my son. Every time he sees him step out of line, bang. Yeah, and he's a massive guy, so my kid can't do anything about him. Yeah, eventually my son's going to stop doing Averas. or run away. But you understand that what's that got to do with free will? What? So now, how different is that? If I like we said before, remember that there's that there's a house of horrors. Some pastor in the southern states, he created a house of horrors. A wealthy guy spent a few $1,000,000 on creating a house of horrors for the young children of the community, where they would they would make them go through it when they were like 9 years old, and it was like basically called hell. And they basically scared the living daylights out of these little kids until they were kind of completely dysfunctional OCD adults. They were just terrified of going to hell. So they behaved themselves. I mean, I don't know, but you would think they would behave themselves. What's the difference between that and having that big Irish guy walking around my kid giving a slap every time he says something wrong? Conceptually, it's the exact same thing. That isn't Bechira. That's a function. That is a function of your humankind. As a function of your humankind. That's not avoiding Lishma. Avoiding Lishma is only available to Yisrael. Why? Because they have a Nefesh Elokis. Okay, I think we basically got to chapter 9, and I think next week we'll carry out for chapter 9. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Welcome back.
Yeah. Good to be back. Thank you. See you on Thursday, maybe.
Look